everybody, I have a super fun stitch to show you today. This is called Spring Stitch, and you make all of these neat little coils or springs on the front of your work. This is worked on a multiple of 4. I have 16 stitches for my sample here. I'm using some US size 8 needles, and the yarn is some of my cushy worsted weight yarn from sapphiresYarn.com. This colorway is sold out, but there are a couple of other colors available. Initially, you're going to work 6 rows, and then after the 6 rows, you repeat from row 3. Row 1 is a knit row, row 2 is a purl row, and row 3 is a knit row, which is where we will be starting with this sample. So grab some needles and yarn and get ready to make some springs. So as I mentioned, we repeat from row 3, so we're picking up on row 3 in our little sample here. And for row 3, you're just going to knit all stitches. Whoops. And if you didn't catch it the first time, row 1 is a knit row and row 2 is a purl row. So after you've worked rows 1 and 2, you can pick up right here with our row 3 and just knit your stitches. Okay, row 4 is the fun row where we make our little springs. So to start, you're just going to purl the first stitch, and then we begin the repeat. So now we're going to make our first spring. You put your right needle into the next stitch as if to knit, and your working yarn should be in the back. Then you're going to push your needles up a little bit so that you have an X, like this. And you're going to wrap the working yarn around both needles 10 times. And now we're going to pull our working yarn through all of those wraps, and don't forget to also pull through the stitch that you're working into. So you grab your working yarn with the right needle and pull, and hopefully it will come through just like that. So then you're going to slide this whole messy yarn right off the left needle, and then you want to bring your working yarn over to the right. You're just going to grab all of those wraps and pull them out just like that. Then you grab your working yarn and give it a little pull and watch the magic, and there is your first spring. And you don't want to pull too tightly, just enough to snug those wraps up next to the needle. So after you make your spring, you knit 1, purl 2, and repeat. So now we're going to make another spring. You go into the next stitch as if to knit, slide your needles up to make an X, wrap the working yarn 10 times around both needles, and again, don't wrap too tightly. Now I'm going to slide my needles down a little bit. So you grab the working yarn with your right needle, there it is. I just barely got it. There we go. Takes a lot of practice, so don't feel bad if the wraps just fly off your needle. Okay. So once you have successfully pulled your working yarn through, you slide that all off, And then bring your working yarn over to the right, and you just stretch out all of those wraps. And then you grab your working yarn, give a little pull, and ta-da! There's your spring. And then you knit 1, purl 2. I'm going to make another spring. And then you knit 1 and purl 1 to finish the row. Okay, row 5. You just have to knit all of the stitches, which is quite a relief after row 4. It really takes a lot of practice to get this one, so do not feel frustrated if you can't get it the first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, because I really struggle with making those springs. But if you practice, you can get it. So there we go, row 5, and you can see all of those neat little springs we made from row 4. Okay, row 6, you start by purling 3. And now we're going to make a spring. So again, you go into the next stitch as if to knit, making sure your working yarn is in the back of the work. Make an X with your needles. Wrap the yarn 10 times around both needles. And now we're going to pull our working yarn through all of those wraps. Slide everything off the left needle. Take the working yarn over to the right. Stretch out all of those wraps. Grab the working yarn and pull to make your spring. And again, you don't want to pull that really tightly, just enough to get it to snug up or coil up next to your needles. So then after the spring, you knit 1 and purl 2, and that's the repeat. So you make a spring. And after your spring, you knit 1, purl 2. Okay, so you should have 5 stitches left at the end of your row, and with those last 5 stitches you're going to make a spring. And then you knit 1 and purl 3 to finish out row 6. So again, you would just repeat the pattern from row 3, and you get all of these super cool, funky springs on the front of your work. And give the working yarn a little bit of slack. Needle. And then pull it through. Pull. And hope that it comes through. I see it sticking out. See if I can grab it. There we go. Oh, maybe not.